vendors. You can see here that some of the examples we have right now are DRM, iWonder, MediaMind, PointRoll, and Unicast. Now, this is not a finite list. This isn't the final list we decided saying we're going to use these. This is where we need feedback from you. If you're seeing demand from your advertisers for this, you think there's a greater opportunity to premium content where this would be displayed, maybe let us know what vendors you're using, right? If you listen at the last minute, we do go through a certification process, make sure everything works, make sure it's clean and fluid. We need to know ahead of time. So if there's vendors here, or not here, sorry, that you would like to use, please let us know and we'll make sure we get them added. Now, a couple of things we are looking at going forward are obviously reporting, because we want to be able to see, well, how many of the bids that you're doing through expandables, and what's the CPM there, or what's the volume. So we're looking at adding additional reporting on this. A premium for expandables pricing. The reason for this is really to make sure that publishers are incented to do the extra work to support these, do this as premium inventory, and get it up onto their sites as quickly as possible, and they're going to put this onto their main pages through RTB. It's that we get as many expandable slots or expandable supported slots flowing through the exchange quickly, and the premium pricing on some of these will help with this. Giving more control to sellers. This is making sure that on the sell side they can decide to a greater degree what type of ads they're showing, and really whether or not they want to show the expandables at all. One thing that will make it a lot easier is auto detection. We don't have a set date for this, but looking at once the ad comes in, be able to make sure that we can auto detect which ways it can expand to. Often there can be multiple, and we take care of all the heavy lifting for you, so it isn't the limited number of settings we have right now. We have a huge uptake for this, so if you're interested in being part of the beta program for the next round of it and you're not already, or even hearing more about it in a lot more technical detail from the AdX team, please go to your technical account manager or email me, and my email address will be at the end of the presentation. We'd be happy to chat with you. On top of this, and this is the one that gets a lot of attention, is in-stream video. So this is ads that are integrated right into it, right? A great example, and I don't know anyone who's going to be on this call who hasn't used YouTube at some point, is really having these ads pre-roll, right? So before and post-roll or during, and also overlay. It's not just YouTube, but also on the Google Display Network and other sources of video inventory adding. So the thing about this, it is getting actually very high responsiveness rate. You get a lot of people who are forced to pay attention to it. For the digital recorders with your TVs, you can see how quickly we all ignore commercials. This is something with pre-roll, when adding up a video, you have to see the ad, right? They're trapped. We keep it short to make sure they don't flick away, but it's almost a guaranteed ad view with a pretty powerful message. And a lot of the ads are actually pretty high quality. They're going into this because they are getting the eyeballs for very, very targeted segments. So there's been a lot of demand here, but we do have to make sure that we go through all the technical kinks on this as well. So it's not just like a display ad. You need infrastructure on your end to get this supported, and that's why we're working with a select number of buy-side partners right now to test this, make sure you're getting the returns, and that it goes smoothly for our publishers when it comes out. So we're just targeting content categories and geos. Later on, audience and demographics will follow. Sort of a key part of this, especially with YouTube. There's such a huge user base that can provide a lot of good demographic data. Initially, we want to get the technical challenges out of the way and get really just targeting on categories and geos. So we want to make sure that we can buy additional video inventory from AdX sellers. So we'll be going beyond the Google inventory into others and make sure that it's clean, and most importantly, it is high-quality inventory. Because you can imagine there's a lot of user-generated content on YouTube right now. Actually, just last night, I was showing videos of kittens to my young daughter, and there's a whole bunch of ads. So it's not perfect yet. There were a lot of cat ads, but with demographic data, you can get better at it and start putting big ads on cats and very focused ads on it. So I think this is high potential for a lot of the advertisers and for the buy-side partners to start leveraging this. Mobile ads as well. This is an alpha. So this is really in the exploratory stages for a lot of the buyers, advertisers, and publishers we're working with. Looking at in-game ads. It is picking up a lot of steam, but there are a number of challenges here to make sure that it's going to give the return to your advertisers, make it worthwhile for them. So if you are interested in this, let us know. We'll be happy to get you involved in the alpha and beta when it comes out. We do think this is really going to take off, so this is one thing where we recommend getting your feet wet early. Now, going through a lot of technical challenges on this with us as a partner, so we start seeing demand and a lot more content available. You're ready to take advantage of it. One of the key things that I do want to get across to everyone is brand safety. I've met with the majority of our DSPs out there, a number of the larger holding companies as well, and one of the key things we're hearing is that their advertisers want a very brand-safe inventory. So we are looking at adding different ways of doing this. One, we actually have a category called brand safe, right, where it's looking at higher quality inventory, looking at things that, brand select, to make sure that it's family safe, that it's very good, and looking down actually at the page level, not just the site level. The reason we're doing this is to make sure that the slots where ads go up, if you've got advertisers such as consumer packaged goods, with very brand conscious, right? One ad associated with the wrong site, and you can ruin really a relationship with them. Some sites you want to make sure are very, very pure. You're willing to pay a higher CPM, so is your advertiser. You know with the brand select that it is there. On top of this, we're looking at adding additional categorization in the future. There will be different lists. One of the feedbacks that I've heard loud and clear from a lot of you is it can't just be the Google way, right? We can't just have Google-specific lists. They're by Google. There are industry standards out there. There's IASH. There's others. There's Asian ones and European ones where you want to be able to say, for, advertisers targeting European markets, that these specific sites meet these requirements, and it falls under this list. What we do is actually have a set of canonical lists where you could say, hey, it's part of this, you're good to go, and they really help a lot with anonymous inventory as well, we think. So if you get back on this, please let us know. There's no set time, but we're definitely considering it. So if you do think this is a good idea and would like to hear more and part of the beta when we eventually start on this, please let us know. We'll be happy to chat with you about it. But part of it as well is really on the publisher side is getting better inventory into the exchange. We want to make sure that traditionally, unfortunately, a lot of the exchanges have been seen as a source of remnant inventory. We make sure more of that premium direct inventory does get into AdX and that it's not just remnant. And I think we're making huge progress on this. We've seen it with a number of partners targeting more premium pages within specific domains. Some of the features I'll be speaking about in a few minutes will help out a lot with this. And I do encourage Q&A. So if there's any questions you had on video or mobile, I'm going to pause for a little bit just to see if anyone's got any questions to come in while we're on those topics. But I won't record names. I know your names come up on our end, but please ask any questions you have on this, and we'd be happy to answer them now.
This is Irene. I can read one aloud about double verify.
Sure.
How does the double verify relationship define kind of what Google's categorizing as brand safe?
Okay. So the way we're doing brand safe is our own categorization, right? It doesn't work at all with double verify. We're only doing our own. So this, like brand select, if you look at the slide that's up right now, this is something where Google goes through, make sure that the pages meet this content and select it that way. We don't have anything that I'm aware of, unless Matthew or Igor or the other guys want to correct. We're doing any categorization based on double verify at this point. No, we're not. So this is something if people are interested in for doing more work, please drop me a line. Let me know specifically what you're interested in. And we'd be happy to look at that in more detail. But right now, all the classification is internal or be off industry standard list, not specific vendor lists at this point. I'm going to read through a couple others. The question from Stephanie, what about the ability to target a page with only one ad slot on the page, no limited inventory, or target to particular ad slot? So, Stephanie, are you looking to ask for clarification? You'll have to type something back. Are you saying you want to have us indicate if the page only is one ad slot, really to make sure it's almost more a premium ad slot because there aren't a lot of other ads cluttering it? Or are you asking that you want to make sure that you're not targeting your ad to multiple ad slots on the same page? I'll pause for a second, just give Stephanie a chance to clarify. You said I gave two options. Okay.
It was the former. She typed
either or, actually. Okay. So I'll answer both. So the first thing is we don't, to the one where I said that they'll identify there's only one ad slot on the particular page, what we actually do with RTB is everything is by ad slot, right? So it comes out, we are not aware right now within the way we've architected it to be able to tell the other slots on the page. We're trying to do it impression by impression by impression, so we're not able to scan it, tag it, and be able to say, hey, there's only one ad slot on this page, that's it, right? We don't currently have that capability. This is actually a really tricky problem. And for any guys in the room, ladies, sorry, Verda, feel free to correct me at any point. The second one's a real challenge, right? To be able to say, hey, look, I have 4 ad slots on a page. I want to make sure that if I bid on slot 1, I'm actually bidding on slot 2, 3, and 4. I don't want my ad to be able to come up on multiple slots on the same page. That is a real technical challenge. It's not in the current roadmap because it would involve having to look at the different slots and then alter the bids in real time because all 4 slots go out at once, right? There's a bid in real time to each, and if we waited to see what the result of slot 1 was before we did slot 2, 3, and 4, or the result of slot 2 before slot 3 and 4, there'd be a lot of latency concerns there. And one of the great things about RTB is very quick. So that's the long answer. Short answer is no, we don't have plans to do it because of a lot of the latency concerns and looking at it holistically across all the slots. But Matthew, that's correct, right? Anything you want to add to that? Okay. Okay, so let me go back to the questions here. And thanks for all the questions coming in. This is great, guys. So we do lots to come in, and I may pause at a certain point to make sure we get to the later half, but I'll answer a couple of them now, and then we'll backtrack and do sort of first in, first out order here. So, next one from Prasanta, do you have an API which returns only RTB campaigns? What you mean by that? We'll wait for move on to Benan and we'll come back. What are the expected GA dates for expandable and in-stream video? So they're in beta right now, as I mentioned earlier. The GA dates are after Q2, so they're not actually going live within Q2. The exact date until we're actually at commercialization. We don't like to give dates externally. Definitely second half, which narrows it down to the half year. The expandables should be soon. The in-stream video will be a little longer, right? So expandables will be quite soon. You'll be looking for that in the near term. The in-stream video is taking a little longer just to make sure all the technical components are there, and especially the reporting to make sure the higher CPM, because the CPMs for video tend to be quite high. Actually, the direct deals, they're extremely high, like $30, $40 sometimes. So this goes through the RTB, that it's priced properly, and it's a reasonable level too. From Val, and then I'll come back to the question, will you send this presentation by email at the end? What we're actually doing is, Eileen, is this directly downloadable through the link, or are we going to send this out for everyone who replies back to the survey, or how do you typically do this for the webinars?
Yeah, everyone that attended entered their email address, so I'll send out both a recording of the webinar as well as the deck.
So this was that one. Actually, sorry, Eileen, I just saw in blue that you'd answer that. So I'm going to take a question from Joe, and then we'll actually, okay, I think there was a clarification there. So we aren't looking, the question from Joe is, will we see the Google brand safe score in the protocol buffer? So the intent is not to pass on the scores, right? Like looking at PageRank or sort of the brand safe scores, we don't want to actually expose those. It is, like I mentioned earlier, with everyone on the call can add their own secret sauce and their value between A and B. A big part of this is how much categorization we have, how we do ranking. We use that heavily for signals. Internally, we don't like exposing those actual scores. What we'll do is we'll make sure we'll come up with lists that they meet a certain threshold, and we'll include that. Like Brand Select's a good example of this, to make sure that we've got a certain threshold, it's high value content, and it would get passed in, right? So you know that if it's part of this, then a number of sites will fall under that moniker. That's looking at passing the protocol. So you'll be able to really have a list where a number like 1 would indicate it's part of the brand select, number 2 it's IS, number 3 Planner 1000, number 4, 5, 6 would be other lists. So that's how we're looking at doing versus passing a specific score. The reason is we think there's a lot of information overload already with RTB. We want to make sure that we don't inundate you with more noise. We'd rather somebody can say, yes, our advertiser is part of brand select, it's part of IS, it's part of something else, and versus saying, having to explain to your advertisers what the difference in a score of 0.35 and 0.6. Is that a deal breaker? Is it a pornographic borderline site versus Disney? And we don't want to do that. We'd rather make sure we draw the line for our high-quality sites. So I'm going to come back to the questions. There's a lot of good ones in queue, and then we'll back near the end, and we'll make sure we cover them all. So on the sell side, this is a big change for us within RTB. Traditionally, you see us as open auction, right? That's what the exchanges were for. Make sure that the sellers and publishers can take the inventory not sold direct and kit with buyers and advertisers that want to be able to serve their ads to it to make sure publishers get good yield and the buyers are able to serve their ads to the eyeballs they want. Now, there's anonymous and branded, right? So that was traditionally how it's done. Moving heavily into really direct options. So AdX Direct, and the 3 main ones we'll discuss. One is private bidded, actually lock down who has access to it, and this is really white label. Second is per buyer price floor. So this is a min CPM, and we'll go through more detail on that. And this is to make sure you can set up basic direct deals, and the publisher side have an agreed to price where there's a minimum, they'll start getting more premium inventory into it. Third one's really neat. It's really the fixed price deals. So this is pre-auction and first look, and I'll go through some more details on this because I really do think it opens up a new amount of inventory and premium inventory to buyers, and specifically for our buy-side partners, right? There's a lot more opportunities for larger deals and be able to facilitate interaction with advertisers and publishers that you wouldn't have normally been able to do and probably would have gone direct instead. Okay, the main ones for private auctions, there's 2 options that are available today. So one is controlled buyer access. This is on the sell side, right? But you need to be aware of what's happening here because it'll tie into some of the details Nick will give you. The publishers can actually filter out specific buyers. So they can say, hey, this inventory only goes to a whitelisted set of buyers and not to others. The reason they do this is because of arrangements with certain DSPs, holding companies, networks. They've got the relationships. They want to offer better inventory to certain ones, or they want to blacklist people they don't have good relationships with. So there, and then they can associate a minimum CPM for that with different CPMs for different buyers. This gives them the flexibility to protect a lot of their inventory. And the per buyer price flooring. So a particular publisher could set a specified min CPM for you, and as long as you bid over that certain amount, you win that inventory. This is used for more premium inventory. Say rather than having an open auction, you'd be like, hey, I've whitelisted you and a few others. As long as you bid more than $2, you'll have access to this. But it's still an open auction just using a whitelist, but it is quite useful for making sure that these simple relationships are set up. Next, what we've got now, which is brand new, and this is coming in Q2, is a fixed price deal. This really allows a direct deal between a publisher and a buyer. And by being able to say, hey, look, we want to specify how many impressions at a specified fixed price that does come in through the bid out of the buyer. This is effectively a direct deal through the exchange. You can see there's a shot of the interface right there where for a private auction, a publisher can actually select who it goes out to. We're recommending a one-to-one relationship here. So they just offered to turn or just offered to X+1. In example, they're actually blocked for this particular deal, but it's just a dummy test example, so it doesn't actually say anything. They'll be able to set up that direct relationship for premium inventory, and then you'll be able to, as a buy-side person, you'll be able to facilitate that with your advertiser and set it up. So why do publishers do this? Why don't they just go direct? Make sure that they've got really that tier 2 inventory. Right? It's not the main direct ones where it's set with a bulk number of impressions that are guaranteed at a price. This is still an option where a publisher says, here's the number of impressions we're going towards, here's the price, but you buyer really have that first look. When it comes in just like a regular RTB call. be that min CPM, that fixed price that will come in and a flag. But then what will happen is you can decline to bid on it. Let's say it doesn't match your user list, so you do not have to actually fulfill that ad or the slot. You could say, no, it doesn't match, and then it goes back to the publisher, and the publisher can then decide whether or not they put it out to open auction. Powerful and something the others don't have right now, because from a publisher point of view, they're stuck just offering it to you, and if you decline, they have to serve a house ad, which is less than ideal. This really gives them an opportunity to get a good yield from putting the ad up or the impression up through regular RTB call. And this is pretty powerful, and one of the reasons why we think more pubs are going to start being willing to do direct deals through RTB, get their inventory in there because they've got really the safety net below it, and then at the end of the day, if they don't get the price they want through RTB with a min CPM, they can still serve a house ad. So it gives them multiple tiers and gives them much higher yield. And from the buy side, this is great because coming across Q3 and Q4, we'll be building a lot of introductory tools and allow you to be able to reach out to publishers based on certain domains and a number of different options so you can establish relationships you don't have. And that's key, right? A lot of you do direct deals. You can set that up. That will allow you to facilitate all through RTB with very little application changes at all on your end, these type of deals. So if you're interested in this, please reach out to your technical account managers or to me, and we'll be happy to chat with you in more detail. So if you overall, what's really going to grow demand right now is these new type of inventory. So rich media, right? So looking at expandables, you're going to see a lot more high quality ads with a higher CPM coming out. Video is going to really open up a huge amount of inventory. You can see YouTube already does have a lot of premium inventory on there. This is where some of the private deals that the fixed price, so AdX Direct, will open up. Because channels that own this, specific partners for the individually growing inventory, be able to get first look access to premium inventory is key. Right? That'll be the best of the best. That's what the advertiser will pay high CPM for. That's what you want to be able to push through your systems, and be able to work private deals will help out a lot. And mobile is going to explode because it's just in-game advertising and local search on mobile is going to grow. It's important that everyone get involved early, so you're sort of behind the times when it does start to take off. So what we're going to walk through now for the next little bit is actually changes in RTB, and the engineers are going to walk through this. I'm going to cover the IP truncation. We'll have questions there, and then we'll come back to the Q&A list, and we've built in a lot of time for Q&A, so we'll definitely get to the questions that are up on the screen. So you felt this is overly communicated. What I'm going to do is a quick show of hands. There should be a little hand option, and let me see if it comes up.
Actually, I verified with an attendee, so you should all see a little black and white hand on your screen.
You can raise your hand to see, let me know if you've heard about the IP change, the fact that we're going to be truncated in the last byte. Can we see? You see all the hands come up. Do you know where the window is to be able to see it? Let me see. Nope. Can you guys see it? See a little exclamation part coming up. Okay. Can everyone do me a favor? Oh, there it is. Perfect. I can see it now. So everyone who has actually implemented the IP change already, so they're prepared, it's in their system, can you put your hand up or exclamation mark? Some hands up. Can you scroll up, Nick? It's right there. Okay, perfect. So I'm just looking at another screen for it. Okay, so this is why we're covering this in a lot of detail. So coming down from really right at the top, working at making sure that user privacy is protected. And really, there's a lot of very smart companies out there who do a lot of work with IP, just to figure out exactly where people are, to the point where these smart companies will work with local ISPs to get additional information beyond traditional geolocation, down the door in some cases, to come knock on your apartment door. The feeling that we didn't want to give it that level of detail. So this came down actually from Larry Page. The decision was made that we want to restrict the amount of IP, still be able to get down to the city level with what we have, but not down to the additional detail where it's intruding on user privacy. We completely realize this has been a difficult change for all of you. right? You want to be very specific in terms of geographic location is key for that value add you give your advertisers, for also deciding which ad you want to serve for the particular impression. But this was a decision that was made. We felt it was giving up too much information to give the full IP. So what you'll see at the bottom, the old home one, 127.0.0.1, what you're receiving is just 3 bytes or 5 bytes for IPv6, and that last byte will not be there, right? So it still gives you a lot of good information, but not down to the level of detail that you would have before. Now, what are people actually doing for this, right? Because I've spoken to a lot of you on this. One option I've seen is just tag 0 onto the end of the existing IP address. So the people I spoke to where we're changing the code, because some of you do work with multiple changes, you're putting back the Google Geo information with 0 just attached to it, 3 regular geo providers, your third-party ones, understanding that you may not get Metro or the ZIP+4 level of detail you would have before. The vast majority of campaigns is enough. For mobile and very specific ads, like locality-based ads, it may be more of a challenge for some of you. But the vast majority of campaigns, getting down to the level of detail, the first 3 bytes or bytes for IPv6 provide is good enough. Second is making the calls to third-party geo companies with different geo information from Google. Some have reached out and said, hey, you figured it out. We'll pass on the first 3 bytes and the additional geo information that Google's giving us. Like there are geo fields coming down with the bid, and some of you are doing that. And a few of you are using the existing Google Geo data. Now, what I'd like to ask in the last one, for anyone who is using that data, and there are a few of you on the call, let me know. We're looking at hosting a webcast from the Google Geo team, and they'll walk through exactly how the geo information works, what our plans are for it, because they're doing a big overhaul on this. So if you're interested in attending that webcast in the future, or doing a private call on it, please drop me a line at the end of the call when my email comes up. I'm happy to arrange that for you. Geo information, just as a quick refresher, we currently pass as a string, country, region, city, metro, and the HTTP, or the URL, sorry, which you actually the list here. So if you're using it now and you want to consider using it, there's a lot of information there. Metro is US only, be specific, so a US concept only for now. First question I get from a lot is, what about ZIP or ZIP+4? We're looking at ZIP, but we're definitely not looking at ZIP+4. Looking at the Geo team about this, we don't plan passing ZIP+4 data, and that's a US-specific concept as well. But it's far too specific and gets down to the idea of knocking on someone's door, because ZIP+4 can be very, very specific, and we want to avoid that. I'm actually going to turn it over to Igor, and have you want me to switch slides? So Igor's going to walk you through what we've done past with cookie matching and where we're going on this. So Igor.
Sure, thanks, Drew. We are going to be rolling a new version of the cookie matching API in the next several weeks. We'll release the documentation for that again next several weeks, so you can see more details. So that we are updating. Previously, with the cookie matching API, you could perform a cookie match and get a match from the Google user ID that we pass through rebidding and your own cookie space. What we is the ability to do a few other things. So for instance, we will also let you add a user to a user list and time is performing cookie matching. And also, if the user doesn't happen to have a double-click cookie, we've previously sent you error code. So you can set an option on the request that will make us set double-click cookie and then send you the match for that. Drew, can you the next page?
Yeah. There you go.
So a slightly deeper view of how you trigger the new API instead of the old API. Instead of passing an ID parameter to the cookie matching URL, you'll now pass a Google underscore ID parameter, and this basically says whether we use version 1 API or version 2. There are a few new parameters: Google underscore CM, which asks us to do a cookie match, Google underscore SC, which instructs us to set a cookie if it's not already present, and underscore ULA, which tells us to add the user to a user list that you provide us. And excuse me. And the return parameters also are slightly changed. because we now have more operations. So we pass errors through this new Google_error parameter. We'll pass the Google ID through a specific parameter called Google_GID instead of just appending it to the URL. Similarly to how we used the receiver parameter previously to give you the version of the cookie, we'll now pass that in the Google_receiver. We'll report the success or error of adding a user to a user list through this Google_URL return parameter. Page. A few examples of how you would call the cookie matching API. If we assume that your matching URL is the one we have at the top here, ads.network.com/pixel. With the new API, you would call the second URL. You see we're using the Google_NID parameter instead of just the NID parameter to invoke the second version of the API. We're passing an NID and we're passing a ULA parameter, which tells us to the user to this user list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And on success, we'll redirect to you with this Google_ULA parameter saying this has been successful, which is the error code 0 there is success. And if the user doesn't have a cookie, we'll redirect to you with a Google_error parameter. Final example here, or the next example, shows that you can add the user to multiple user lists at the same time, and so set a timestamp of when you've added the user to the user list. So I think we've expanded sort of the amount of things that you can do with cookie matching, and potentially in the future we'll expand to more as we get feedback for what would be useful. We hope that this will allow you to set less on the page. You can now only use one tag instead of 2, or potentially 3. And we'll also reduce latencies for users and make it simpler for you to use the API.
Perfect. What we're going to do is we're going to pause. If you have any questions right now on the cookie matching side, if you could type them in. So let's pause just for a couple minutes, and then Igor can answer them directly on this.
Look, we had a good question about whether the Google user ID is unique for a user or whether it corresponds to a browser, which I responded to, but worth using for the whole group.
Yeah, so the question is it unique to the user or is it based on the browser? So as I mentioned, it's based on the double-click cookie, so it is specific to the browser and machine that the user uses. So if you're doing multiple browsers or multiple machines, you would have multiple Google user IDs.
Great. We have a question about how to test cookie matching. I think we need a few more details before answering that, unless you have any thoughts off the top of your head. Igor?
So just sure that it's working, you could sort of simply test it with your own browser to the URL you would put in the tab and make sure the cookie gets on your own browser and you get redirected. We don't currently have sort of an automated testing framework that we are providing, but because the cookie matching implementation is fairly simple, it shouldn't be too difficult to test it.
Great.
For specific questions, we can answer those as well.
A few more questions. Are there any limits to the number of user lists?
I believe we currently have a limit, but the URL size will have a limit, and our backends for storing user lists may have some limits that I'm not aware of. I say something under 10 is quite reasonable. Above that, we would have to make sure that would work.
Okay.
On that point, if people have a flyer, like they're using 400, I want to ask if it's going to work. Drop me a line. We'll be happy to set up a call with you, myself, and Igor to walk through what you think you're going to process that many lists for a specific bid, and then to make sure that it does work on our end if there's a good reason for it. So let us know. We'll be happy to work with you. So
there's a very good questions here, so let me answer them. Can we hit the Google URL many times during testing? You can hit the URL with sort of manual testing. Shouldn't be hitting the URL for load testing or anything like that. If have unit tests that would send 10 requests, that's probably fine. If you have a few hundred requests during your test, that's probably too much. There was another good one here. What behavior when the user does not accept cookies? So when the user does not accept cookies, will redirect to your URL saying that the user does not have a cookie. So I believe the error for that is 0. So we direct with this Google_error, which signifies sort of a general error, equals 0.
Hey guys, looks like we have 13 minutes left. I know there's a little more content to get through, so maybe let's just run through that so that we can save the last 10 minutes or so for a big Q&A session.
Sounds good. Okay, what we're going to do actually, let me go back one. I'm Nick Ray, and he's going to walk through the new functionality we have on publisher settings transfer.
Thanks. So this is a new feature that we're starting to roll out, and the idea is we make available a report containing edited publisher settings that are they're set by the publishers, and they don't change on a per impression basis. So the idea is that you can use the publishing system to pre-filter bids before returning them to Google. We'll still do filtering after the fact, but if you do it on your side before, it's less likely that you'll return a bid that won't make it to the auction. The reason that we're moving towards this system is that a lot of the bandwidth in the FTP calls is data that doesn't actually change between from impression to impression. It's based solely on there and the ad slot that the ad is being served into. So this isn't new information. It's just a different way of accessing it. The information is currently entirely in the bid request. We're looking to move some of that out of the bid request eventually to cut down on request size. So one of the largest fields in the bid request right now is the publisher blocked URLs. That's sort of the canonical example of why I have the publisher settings transfer. So currently we limit the blocked URLs to 200 bytes per request, but in reality, publishers often have much longer lists of URLs that they've blocked. So when I send a bid request with this incomplete list, it's possible that you will return a bid that has a language that the publisher has already blocked, and that's sort of a wasted bid. So with publisher settings transfer, you'll be able to access the full list of blocked URLs and do a complete filter on your bid so that when you have a much better chance of actually making it into the auction.
Next slide.
Diagram that sort of explains what I just said. So this is sort of the current scenario where you receive a bid request with the complete block things. And the bid example doesn't know that the URL they're returning is blocked, so their bid never enters the auction. And if for the next slide, in this case, bidder 1 has a more complete information about this request and settings that the publisher has set for it to be able to make a better bid, and it actually makes it into the auction.
One of this, I think, is the fact that many, especially the larger buyers on RTV, are representing many, many different advertisers, or additional third parties, it's a wasted bid. That's the biggest thing, right? Some of you have a bigger response rate, but if you could have not with that bid and put another ad up for auction, especially if you're looking at premium inventory with high CPM and smarter, more premium publishers, the ones that are tending to use this is a good opportunity to win a bid that you would have just wasted effort on. Not just CPU, right? Because the volume you respond is pretty deep, but money that's been lost because it could have been a bid that you could have won. Your advertiser would have been happy, you would have gotten that premium inventory, and it wouldn't have been that wasted opportunity. One thing I do want to add is that you'll hear a lot more about this over the next 6 months. We're looking at moving more of that publisher data to this. We'll be given some more webcasts and a lot more of the help docs on how to use this effectively with the different programming languages you're using for RTB. We want to get more and more data into the publisher settings so it's static, reduce that bid size so it's more efficient for all of us, and allow you to do better pre-filtering and understand why you missed out by certain publishers. And this comes up a lot with the quarterly business reviews we have with you of filtering and what's the success rate. This is to do better analysis with some upfront work, obviously, but we will pass more info into this file. So I'm going to the next slide. One thing that I wanted to cover, and this is covered a lot, is field deprecation. Right? And this is a dreaded thing where we break the protocol. Hey, why are you removing it? What's going on? And it came up when we changed some of the fields earlier this quarter because one of the non-standard languages, we didn't think there'd be an impact. The couple things I want to get across before we look at this is we really make sure that any additions to the protocol don't break what's out there. Right? So if we add something or change it, we're not going to break what's there. And that's key, right? We can't afford for you suddenly not to be having the bids go through, have a disruption to your business or ours. So we try extremely hard to make sure nothing breaks as we make changes. We do add fields, right? The additional fields, that's the nice thing about how the protocol is structured. We can add fields before they may necessarily be populated. So some examples of this are some of the list fields when they first came out. We may add code data before it's populated because we can get the field in ahead of time. But when it's actually live, we will be making sure we give you notice ahead of time. And this is key. Every quarter we'll have an RTB webinar going through in detail in terms of what's being added to the protocol, so you know details. You can ask Q&A. For verification, I think the tombstone says it all, right? When you find out someone goes away, you're always going to cry. But we're going to give you a big notice on this, so you know a long time beforehand. So some fields are already deprecated, and we'll walk through them, but anything that gets deprecated will be end of life, effectively removed from the protocol, because it still takes up space. We're giving at least a quarter notice to make sure you have time to remove it, but we'll give a big heads up of when we deprecate it and then give another heads up of when it's actually going to be removed. So it's 1 quarter. That's the new way we're going. We will be, and this comes from Eileen myself, there's going to be a survey coming out in terms of which of these deprecated fields you may still be using. Don't be embarrassed. If you're using them, let us know, and let us know why. Or some of the fields we're looking at deprecating or moving into the publisher settings file, that's going to be part of the survey too. So please respond back to the survey. It's not just about the webcast. We shouldn't deprecate. So then we'll open up the Q&A for the rest. The font's a little small, but the ones that are already deprecated and have been for a while are listed here at the top, and the ones potentially that we're deprecating are the ones listed at the bottom. If we do deprecate them, we'll give you a quarter's notice. But what's in the survey is these fields. Are you using them? So please check with your teams or yourself. Are you using them? Let us know, because we want to assess the impact and really not hurt anyone if it can be avoided. I'm actually going to turn it back to Q&A, and we can answer a lot of these out loud. We'll go to the cookie ones. Were there any further cookie ones, or Igor, you saw ones that you wanted to repeat out loud, or for the publisher settings? I think from Jennifer Chen. Are you answering that one, Nick?
Yeah, I was. I can just do it on the call.
Yeah.
So Jennifer asks, does this mean we will know which publishers are blocking various technologies? So you'll be able to correlate the technologies that are blocked with ad impression in the RTB call. We don't support directly correlating the publisher to the block technologies, because some of the bidders prefer to sell their inventory anonymously. In that case, we don't want to sort of give information that would defeat anonymity.
Yeah, it's definitely out there. The one publisher thing, the question we always get is, well, are you now exposing information the pubs didn't want? Is this going to create a conflict? Will then be able to see who they're working with? No. This is data that was already exposed to the bid in some way. It's really getting to one list and allowing you to do pre-filtering so you're not wasting the bids and really putting better bids in the auction for, say, domains or landing pages that would actually get accepted. So you may get some more questions on this, but we will definitely have a webcast in Q3 to walk through some more detail and more help docs. The question as well, each month we're going to be having a release note. So there's been a lot of communications on some of the changes. We're simplifying this a lot, so it'll be one email coming up from our POEM team, and we'll be having all the changes that happened that month, links to the Help Center docs. So please keep an eye out. That email will come out at the end of every month. And if there's no changes, we'll just say, hey, no changes this month, enjoy the month off, but we want to make sure you know about it. You've got one master list, and those emails will then be within the Help Center as well. And that way you miss anything, it's not scattered throughout, and you come to expect it. And things like additional changes to the publisher settings will be in there as well. So look for that each month. So specific questions we want to answer at this time?
Looks like there were a couple questions going back to video. One is around Dart and VAST tags. So will AdXUI just allow buyers to use a Dart served VAST tag as their creative?
I'm not the video expert. Are you guys?
If any questions that went unanswered in the webinar, we will follow up with you individually. I have a transcript of the Q&A and the chat.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because that's not my area of expertise. It's new. It's alpha for me as well, so I can't answer that one, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, there are a lot of questions about the timeline for Zip. I think that's still unknown, right, Drew?
Yeah, we're working to figure that out. What I'd like is anyone who is interested in Zip and would actively use it, please send me an email. We've had mixed responses from a number of you. Some said you definitely use it, and wouldn't. I'd like to be able to assess who it is, and then we can discuss how it's being generated by Google. So drop a line after this. Just put Zip in the subject line. I can follow up via email or phone, however you want to be contacted. That would help, and we can have a geo discussion as well.
We allotted 1 hour for the webinar. I know everyone's busy and may have other meetings to attend. We'd better close this one out, but as I mentioned, we do have the transcripts, and we'll follow up on every single question that was unanswered. Drew, I want to go to the last slide. You've mentioned your email address a lot.
There it is there. So it's dbradstock@google.com. I'll make sure to write the questions. For any of the ones we missed, we'll sure to follow up. We do have the transcript, so we'll follow up with you directly. What we can do is actually I'll leave the webcast open for a little while, so if there's questions that people haven't typed in yet and they want follow-up on, type them in now, and then we can make sure we get back to you on that. So I'll be around for just a couple more minutes, and that way we can get the questions in the transcript and answer them after the fact. Thank you everyone for taking the time out for the first of these. We'll be having more of them, and if there are specific topics you'd like a deep dive on, please drop us a line and let us know. As always, coming up with new topics for these webcasts, and if you can let us know what's of interest to you, we'll get the right speakers together and make it worth your time. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.